per firearm given to sport shooters. With this reservation, still the PNP is open to further discuss the details of this concern with the end view of having a consensus that will not compromise public safety and security, and taking into consideration our social responsibility as a good citizen of this country. Due to the interest of time, we appeal to the Honorable Committee that the official position papers of the PNP will be submitted at a later date to give us time to get consensus from our leadership. Other comments and recommendations on provisions in the draft Senate bill will also be included in the position paper, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and once again, good morning, sir.
Thank you, General Ocobo. So yung counter offer mo dito sa 500 is dapat 100 lang, okay ka na? Okay. Ngayon ba, no existing? 50, ganon? So ang offer mo is 100.
100, sir.
Okay na sa'yo 100.
Okay naman, sir.
500 di pwede.
Yes, sir. Kasi pag nagamit naman, sir, pwede naman silang bumili uli ng amo nila. For individual niya, sir. At sa sport shooters naman, sir, nasa 1,000 naman yung counter offer namin.
1,000?
Yes, sir. Kung naubos, sir, bibili na lang uli sila, sir. Kasi na-exceed na nila yung required ammunition, sir, ng law enforcement agencies natin. So mas marami pang bala, sir, yung lumalabas, sir, mas marami pang bala dadalhin yung civilian kaysa yung law enforcements.
So dagdagan natin yung sa law enforcement para madagdagan sa civilian.
Pwede rin, sir.
So wala, actually wala. Sa'yo, apprehension lang yan. Kahit ako, apprehension lang yan, pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na mas maraming bala yung civilian, kayang-kaya niyang i-outgun yung law enforcement. 1:1, ha? Hindi naman niya, wala naman ganun intention din yung civilian na mayroong 500 na para makipagbarilan sa law enforcement. Comparison purposes lang naman yan, eh. Diba? Sige, thank you. Salamat. May we hear from Afad Arek? Yeah, you have the floor.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, esteemed colleagues, and distinguished guests. As we gather today to discuss the proposed amendments to Republic Act 10591, we stand in full support of Senator Bato's initiatives to recalibrate our firearms law in a manner that recognizes the growing potential of the firearms industry in the Philippines. The firearms industry is not a niche sector, but a rapidly developing industry that has the potential to contribute significantly to our economy. This industry, when properly nurtured and regulated, can create numerous opportunities for employment, skill development, and economic growth. By amending RA 10591, we are not simply loosening restrictions. We are enabling an industry to flourish, to innovate, and to provide livelihood for countless Filipinos. While we do acknowledge the concerns surrounding crimes involving illegal firearms, it is essential to differentiate between law-abiding citizens who have registered and responsibly owned firearms and those who use illegal weapons for criminal activities. The issue of illegal firearms is not one of regulation but of enforcement. Strengthening enforcement measures to crack down on illegal arms trade should not penalize legitimate firearms owners or hinder the growth of the industry. We must ensure that our laws focus on the root of the problem, illicit firearms, while supporting those who adhere to the legal framework. In this era of economic uncertainty, it is imperative that we explore and support industries that can offer stability and growth. The firearms sector, with its potential to expand both locally and internationally, should be seen as a vital part of our economic strategy. Instead of imposing restrictions that stifle this industry's development, we must craft legislation that supports its growth, ensures responsible regulation, and ultimately create more jobs for the Filipinos. By backing these amendments, we are paving the way for a thriving industry that aligns with our goals of economic prosperity and national security. Let us work together to ensure that the firearms industry in the Philippines is supported and not hindered, so it can serve as a strong pillar of our economy and a source of opportunity for many Filipinos. Mr. Chair, we do have one if we can recommend an additional to your proposal with regards to the exemption during the gun ban, it's to also include the importation. Because during the gun ban, I know for a fact that one of the main things that we restrict is the movement of firearms in terms of sales. So this is the time when we deliver firearms, or we give the firearms to the people who bought from us. But during that time, all, if not majority of the members of our association, which consists of majority of the importers here in the Philippines, are forced to shut down their operations for 6 months. This means for 6 months during the gun ban, no company will import firearms, ammunition, and any other component, which also results to no taxes being paid to the government. At the end of the day, Mr. Chair, when we also exempt the imports of these products, these all go to Camp Crame. These are all escorted by the PNP with the proper documents.
Yes, I don't see any reason bakit natin ipagbawal yan. Dahil pag election period naman, kaya natin binabawal yung movement of firearms para hindi magamit ng mga politiko sa kanilang mga harassment na mga purposes. But yun ang importation at exportation, hindi naman yan mapupunta sa kamay ng mga end users, kundi from airport to Camp Crame lang naman yan.
Yes, Mr.
Airport to Camp Crame, deposit doon.
Yes.
So the movement is very clear hanggang dyan. Hindi napupunta, walang distribution of firearms doon sa kamay ng mga end users.
The moment
Hanggang doon lang yan.
the moment it arrives, Mr. Chair, in the port or in NAIA, it is already inspected by the PNP, your customs police. And when it moves, it is escorted by the PNP as well. As soon as it arrives in Crame, it's also inspected there and stored in Crame. So hindi po siya lalabas talaga with ano.
Yeah, I got your point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you. May we hear from the Philippine PPSA, the President, my compadre, Edwin Lim.
Good morning, Your Honor, Senator Bato de la Rosa. I am Edwin Lim, representing the Philippine Practical Shooting Association. This is the largest shooting association in the Philippines, along with PISMOC. The Philippines is the #1 champion in Asia for practical shooting, and #3 in the world. So a lot of the Filipino shooters are very enthusiastic about the sport, and most of these shooters are responsible owners, and they're very safe. In fact, we have in the range, it's called the cold range, wherein the shooter cannot load his firearm. So we are one of the safest firearm owners in the country. I'm representing the Shooting Association to also seek an exemption from the COMELEC, simply because we also have a lot of international competitions abroad. And because of that, in fact, next week we have a big Australasia in Bali, Indonesia. And we're having a little bit of a problem with the permit to transport. And the competition starts on Friday. And a lot of the shooters are now going into the airport having problems about their PTTs. But that's one of the many competitions that goes on around the world. And we are very active. And our the shooting sport is not a sport that you can let go for 6 months, because you will lose your talent. So because of that, we pray, #1, that it be exempted from COMELEC exemption. If you need to escort the shooters to the airport, we have no problems with that. Furthermore, regarding the 5,000 rounds, we would like to update the community that the shooting sport has also evolved. Right now, there are so many divisions and types of weapons or firearms, categories, and different pistol, shotgun, rifle. And because of this, the sport shooter practices with a lot of rounds. not only do the one firearm, but also with the three different kind of firearms: pistol, shotgun, and rifles. And 5,000 rounds, we feel, is enough. The 1,000 provision by the PNP right now is also very short, although they may not hear anything from the shooters, but in reality, it is short. And we need 5,000 rounds. So we pray that we will be able to get that provision cleared. Thank you.
Thank you. Even 5,000 rounds is not enough to become worldly competitive. Hindi mo kaya yan. Yung 5,000 na yan, yung conservative estimate, pag-practice yan yes sir. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our Senate President. Sir, dito ka. Speak. Thank you. Salamat. You want to...
Good morning to everyone. Wala akong sasabihin dito, tiga-quorum lang ako ni Senator Bato eh. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. As I've said, yung 5,000, kung serious sa papapractice mo, baka maubos mo yan ng less than 1 week. Yung 5,000. Isang punta mo lang sa range, 1,000, maubos mo na. So, every day ka nagpa-practice in preparation for the world shoot, talagang kukulangin yan. But anyway, i-discuss pa natin ito ng gusto dahil we have to convince the PNP about these things dahil pagdating ng araw, kung hindi natin sila mag-convince, sila rin ang kahit na lulusot ito, sila rin ang magpapabito nito sa Malacanang kung hindi sila kumbinsido. So, dapat makonvince natin sila. Yes, go ahead, Mr. President.
I would also like to stress that presently the Philippines had the last World Shoot in Thailand. The Philippines brought home 63 medals. We are right now the highest gold medalists in the practical shooting. And so it's very important that our sportsmen have enough ammunition to practice. Again, this is not for self-defense purposes. This is for bringing honor and medals to the country.
Thank you. Very clear explanation. President of PPSA. Thank you. Next, may we hear from PISMOC, Attorney Tabuhara. Approve ka. Si kumpara sa PISMOC. Mr. Nuevo.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Honorable Chair and members of the Senate Committee. First, we would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our organization. The Practical Shooters and Match Officers Confederation, or PSMOC, or PISMOC, is an organization headed by former TESDA Secretary Suharto Teng Mangudadato. For the record, Honorable Chair, members of this committee, the PISMOC community would like to make a stand that it strongly supports the proposed amendments to the Republic Act 105-91. But if I may, Mr. Chair, PSMOC would like to humbly suggest that NAPOLCOM, a policy-making body overseeing the PNP, be given a role in the drafting of the IRR in order to ensure that the implementation of the Republic Act be consistently adopted and, more importantly, implemented by any head of the PNP hierarchy in the future. Furthermore, may we also humbly suggest that the gun club and shooting ranges validity be increased from 1 year to 3 years for both government and privately owned and operated shooting ranges. And for everyone's information, the Philippine Shooters and Match Officers Confederation was invited to participate in an international match in Singapore on October. And I'm quite sure everybody knows how the gun laws in Singapore are. They're very strict. And for us to be invited to Singapore to participate in such a
a match, we are very honored and we welcome it because they were telling us it's not going to be the first and last, but it's the first of the several to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Facebook, Mr. Nuevo. I just would like to state now for the record that we have the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act is now pending for transmittal to the Office of the President. And in line with this, kung itong ginagawa natin ngayong proposal, it is in support to the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act para lalago yung ating firearms industry dito sa Pilipinas. Malaking suporta itong gagawin nating proposed measure na ito. Gun Owners Associations? Sino ba mga Gun Owners Association dito? Mr. Martin Tuason, you want to share with us your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Senate President as well, and to all the other guests here and other honorable members of the Senate. I think some great points were brought up by everybody who's spoken so far. I'd like to address the COMELEC Section 32 is one of the things. It specifically says for the transportation of firearms during an election period, right? Number one, I think it's been, I'm not going to use the word, it's been overreached at times because it says firearms, yet the transportation of ammunition has been included in there, the transportation of fertilizer has been included in there, the transportation of hydrogen peroxide has been included in there. The COMELEC law on the transportation of firearms, the intent is for people to stop carrying their firearms personally during an election period to prevent election-related violence. And I think that has to be addressed in this law. It's not only just import-export of firearms, but we have to go through the process. And I'll tell you, as a business owner, there hasn't been a single gun ban election period where it hasn't taken at least a minimum of 3 weeks and sometimes 6 weeks before the COMELEC actually releases their own permits. So sometimes even months. So the disruption in business can cause the elimination of a lot of employment here in the Philippines. As the largest producer of firearms and ammunition in the Philippines and probably the region, it really does hurt business, and it hurts the Filipino gun owner as well. Right now, you have elections that are counted by 11 p.m. on the day of elections, right? We know who the winner is. That's the example. Yet the gun ban period extends 30 days after the election period. Why? It's an old law that needs to also be updated. Maybe this isn't the forum for that, but the overreach, attacking different things like the ones I mentioned are not firearms. The law is specifically meant for firearms. Also supposed to be during the election period, yet to the discretion of the COMELEC, they actually apply it over 1 month before the election period officially starts, which is not the true intent of the law itself. In fact, I believe Armscor was able to win a case in 1992, right, Gina? Correct? Yeah, for the first gun ban, which had clarity with that. And then there's also additional things that happened during gun ban period, like shutting down the shooting ranges, saying that the shooting ranges have to close. Nowhere on the election law does it say that shooting ranges have to close. It's only the transportation. If we choose to leave the firearms in the shooting range in a locker and not transport the firearms, why not, right? Yet the last gun ban, we weren't even allowed to do that. Am I correct, Edwin? All right. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the COMELEC. Sometimes it also has to do with the PNP because there's a lot of ambiguity in interpretation in 10591 that shouldn't be. So I guess what I'm really wanting to do is to put clear definitions, whether it's good or bad for the industry, has to be in conjunction with the PNP, with the COMELEC, but it should be clear. It shouldn't be left up to IRRs. You wrote an IRR when you were chief PNP. You know the difficulty in going through the IRR process, and then every chief afterwards wants to change it and include that. Right now, we have a chief who banned scopes and hollow point ammunition. Where does it say in 10591 that the Chief of National Police has the authority to do that? The only thing that says in 10591 is the president during times of national emergency can ban the carry of firearms at any point in time. And that gives the authority to the president. So, but yet it's been, again, I feel overreached. I mean, I've always been an ally of the Philippine National Police, so I feel very uncomfortable saying these things. You know that when you were chief, I always said I was a friend of the PNP, so I always want to work within the organization to make things better for the gun owners and for the business. But there are things that are clearly stated in 10591 right now, which are being violated, and we want to make the definitions clearer and more concise so that it's implemented in the IRRs. Whether it be worse or better for us, we don't know yet in the process, but it should be clear. Because as a businessman, if we know what the regulations are and it's very clear, we can make the adjustments and follow the law because we are law-abiding citizens, we are law-abiding businessmen. And if you look at the statistics out there, we're not the criminals. We don't go through the registration process, to the urine tests, to the psychological evaluations, background checks, court clearances, all of that to buy a firearm to commit a crime. If we wanted to commit a crime, we go to Danao or Mindanao and buy a gun on the side and do that, which you know that's the case. Almost 99.9% of the crime committed in the Philippines are with illegal firearms. I can't say that isn't a crime of passion occasionally or a case of self-defense. Maybe that wasn't self-defense using a legal firearm. But 99.9% of the time, we are not the problem. We just follow the law. And I want to make that perfectly clear to my friends at the PNP that I'm not going after them or anything by endorsing changes to 10591. We just want it to be clearer. And I believe all the definitions need to be worked on by everybody in the group to clearly define so that in the IRR process, we don't take away the spirit of the law like it was taken away with the original version of 10591. There's just too much. Even rifles, it's allowed in 10591. Yet, are we allowed to buy rifles right now? It isn't the definition of a law to follow the law, right? I can go on